Everyone laughed at the millionaire's blind son at school until a 7-year-old poor girl protected him. What happened next will make you cry. Before we tell this tale, hit like and tell us where you're from and one value that guides your life. Thomas Harrison clutched his son's tiny hand as they approached the imposing brick building of Westfield Elementary. 6-year-old Oliver's unseeing eyes stared forward, his other hand gripping his white cane with determination. At 42, Thomas had conquered Wall Street, built a fortune worth millions, but nothing had prepared him for this moment, his blind son's first day at a mainstream school. "I'm scared, Daddy," Oliver whispered, his blonde hair catching the September sunlight. "I know, champ," Thomas replied, kneeling to straighten Oliver's navy blazer. "But remember what we practiced? You're a Harrison. We face our fears." Since losing his wife Amanda to cancer 2 years ago, Thomas had dedicated himself to giving Oliver every opportunity. The specialists had insisted a regular school would help Oliver develop normal social skills despite his blindness from birth. "Mr. Harrison," the principal, Dr. Peterson, greeted them at the entrance, "we're so pleased to welcome Oliver to Westfield." As they walked the hallways, Thomas noticed the stares from other children and parents, some curious, some pitying, some uncomfortable. Oliver sensed it too, his grip tightening. "Your classroom is right here," Dr. Peterson said cheerfully, ushering them into a brightly decorated room where 21st graders were already settling in. Miss Collins, a young teacher with a warm smile, approached. "You must be Oliver. I've prepared a special desk for you near the front." Thomas watched anxiously as Oliver was guided to his seat. The other children whispered and pointed. One boy loudly asked, "Why does he have that stick?" "Remember, I'm picking you up at 3, Thomas said, reluctantly preparing to leave. "You have my number programmed into your special phone if you need anything." Oliver nodded bravely, but Thomas could see his lower lip trembling. Walking back to his Tesla, Thomas checked his watch. 9 hours until pickup. He had meetings scheduled all day at Harrison Investments, but how could he focus? His son, his blind, vulnerable son, was alone for the first time. Inside the classroom, Oliver sat rigidly at his desk, feeling the unfamiliar edges with his fingertips. The teacher's voice seemed distant as she welcomed everyone to first grade. The classroom smelled of crayons and disinfectant. "Class, let's introduce ourselves," Miss Collins announced. "Oliver, would you like to go first?" Oliver stood shakily. "I'm Oliver Harrison. I'm 6. I can't see, but I can hear really well." A ripple of whispers spread through the room. "What happened to your eyes?" a child called out. "I was born this way," Oliver answered quietly. "That's weird," another voice exclaimed. "Can you see anything at all?" came another question. "No," Oliver whispered, his confidence faltering. "So you're a freak," someone snickered from the back. Oliver felt his face burning as laughter erupted around him. His hands began to shake. He wanted his dad. He wanted to go home. "That's enough," Miss Collins intervened, but the damage was done. At recess, Oliver sat alone on a bench, clutching his lunchbox, too afraid to attempt navigating the playground. The laughter and taunts continued around him. "Hey, blind boy, can you see this?" A finger jabbed painfully into his shoulder. Oliver flinched, tears welling in his sightless eyes. He had never felt so alone. Then suddenly, a fierce voice cut through his misery. "Leave him alone!" The playground fell silent as the small but commanding voice echoed across the blacktop. Oliver, still clutching his lunchbox, turned his head toward the sound. "Who's there?" he whispered. "I'm Lily," the voice replied, closer now. Oliver could smell something earthy and sweet, like someone who had been outside for a long time. "I'm 7. And these stupid boys need to back off." Oliver heard shuffling feet and uncomfortable murmurs. Someone muttered, "It's that weird girl who hangs around the school." "She doesn't even go here," another whispered. Oliver felt someone sit beside him on the bench. Small fingers touched his hand gently. "Hi," Lily said, her voice softer now. "I saw what they did. Are you okay?" Oliver nodded uncertainly. "How come I haven't heard your voice in class?" Lily hesitated. "I don't exactly go to school here. I just come sometimes." Before Oliver could ask what she meant, the bell rang, signaling the end of recess. He felt Lily stand up. "Will you be at lunch?" he asked hopefully. "Maybe," she replied. "Don't let them get to you, Oliver. Being different isn't bad." As the children filed back into the building, Miss Collins approached Oliver. "Who were you talking to, sweetie?" "A girl named Lily," Oliver replied. Miss Collins frowned. "Lily, I don't have a Lily in my class." Inside the classroom, the morning continued painfully. During math, Oliver struggled with the tactile numbers Miss Collins had prepared. The children snickered when he dropped his special tools on the floor. "Blind freak," someone whispered when Miss Collins turned to write on the board. At lunch, Oliver sat alone again, hoping Lily would appear. The cafeteria bustled with noise, trays clattering, children laughing, teachers calling for order. Oliver carefully opened his lunchbox, feeling for the containers his father had packed. "Is this seat taken?" It was Lily's voice again. Relief washed over him. "No, please sit down." Oliver heard her settle beside him, but noticed she didn't place a tray on the table. "Aren't you eating?" he asked. "I already ate," Lily said quickly. "What do you have?" "Turkey sandwich, apple slices and cookies," Oliver replied, offering the container. "Want one? My dad always packs extra." Lily was silent for a moment. "Really? You'd share with me?" "Of course," Oliver smiled. "You're my friend." He heard her take a cookie, followed by a small sound of delight as she bit into it. "This is amazing," she whispered. They talked throughout lunch. Oliver learned Lily loved stories and knew all about the birds in the park. She described colors to him in ways he'd never heard before. Red was like the feeling of warmth on your face, and blue was like when you're floating in water. When the bell rang again, Lily disappeared before a teacher could spot her. The afternoon dragged on endlessly. In art class, the children were asked to draw their families. Oliver sat helplessly with his unused crayons, while the teacher awkwardly suggested he could just describe his picture instead. "My mum died," Oliver stated flatly when it was his turn. "So it's just me and my dad now." The classroom grew uncomfortably quiet. "And he's blind," a boy named Tyler added unnecessarily, causing several children to giggle. By dismissal time, Oliver was exhausted from holding back tears. As the children gathered their backpacks, Tyler approached Oliver's desk. "Hey, blind boy," he whispered. "I bet your mom died because she couldn't stand looking at your weird eyes." A white-hot rage surged through Oliver. Without thinking, he swung his cane wildly, connecting with something solid. Tyler yelped in pain. "He hit me!" Tyler screamed. "The blind freak hit me!" Miss Collins rushed over. "Oliver, we don't hit people!" "He said," Oliver began, his voice breaking. "I don't care what he said," Miss Collins interrupted. "Violence is never acceptable. I'll need to call your father." Oliver sat in shame outside the principal's office, his cane confiscated, his hands trembling. He heard Dr. Peterson on the phone, using words like incident and behavioral issues. Oliver felt sick. His first day, and he'd already failed. His dad would be so disappointed. Meanwhile, across town in the gleaming Harrison Investments building, Thomas sat distracted through his fourth meeting of the day. His phone buzzed with a notification from the school. His heart sank as he read the message. "I need to go," he announced, cutting off his CFO mid-presentation. "Family emergency." 20 minutes later, Thomas strode into Westfield Elementary, his tailored suit and commanding presence causing heads to turn. He found Oliver hunched in a chair, looking impossibly small. "Mr. Harrison," Dr. Peterson greeted him grimly. "Please come in." Inside the office, Thomas listened as the principal detailed Oliver's unprovoked attack on another student. He hit the boy with his cane, Dr. Peterson explained. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence. Thomas glanced at Oliver, whose unseeing eyes were fixed on the floor. Oliver, Thomas said gently, what happened? Tyler said Mom died because she couldn't stand looking at my eyes, Oliver whispered. Thomas felt his blood run cold. He turned to the principal. And where is this Tyler now? Mr. Harrison, while that comment was certainly inappropriate, where is he? Thomas demanded. He's been sent home with a warning about unkind words, Doctor. Peterson replied uncomfortably. Thomas stood, towering over the desk. My son was bullied about his dead mother and his disability, and you're punishing him for defending himself. Violence is never... No. What's never acceptable is allowing children to torment a blind boy who just lost his mother. Thomas interrupted, his voice deadly quiet. Come on, Oliver, we're leaving. As they walked to the car, Oliver clutched his father's hand. I'm sorry, Dad. Thomas knelt beside him. You have nothing to be sorry for, champ. But I hit someone. That was wrong. Thomas sighed. Sometimes standing up for yourself is complicated, buddy. Lily stood up for me too, Oliver said suddenly. Lily? Who's Lily? My new friend. She protected me at recess when everyone was being mean. Thomas made a mental note to thank this girl's parents. Well, I'm glad you made a friend. That evening, after tucking Oliver into bed, Thomas sat in his home office, staring at the wall of windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline. His son's first day had been a disaster. Perhaps the specialists were wrong. Perhaps a special school for the blind would be better after all. His phone rang. Oliver's vision therapist, Dr. Winters, calling for their scheduled check-in. It didn't go well, Thomas admitted after explaining the day's events. The first day is always hardest, Doctor. Winters replied, Give it time, Thomas. Social integration is crucial for Oliver's development. They were cruel to him, Thomas argued. And someone stood up for him, yes? This Lily? That's how children learn empathy and friendship. Thomas reluctantly agreed to give it another day. The next morning, he drove Oliver back to school, his stomach knotted with anxiety. Remember, you can call me any time, Thomas said as they approached the entrance. Oliver nodded, his face set with determination. I'll be okay, Dad. I want to find Lily. As Thomas watched Oliver disappear into the school building, he couldn't shake his unease. Instead of heading straight to his office, he parked across the street and made some calls to reschedule his morning meetings. He'd give it an hour, he told himself, just to be sure Oliver was settling in. Inside the classroom, Oliver navigated to his desk using the techniques his mobility instructor had taught him. He could feel the other children watching but tried to ignore them. Miss Collins greeted him warmly, seemingly eager to move past yesterday's incident. We're starting with Reading Circle today, she announced. Oliver, I have some special Braille books for you. The morning progressed better than the day before. During reading time, Oliver proudly used his Braille books, and some children even asked curious questions about how he could read with his fingers. Tyler kept his distance, nursing a bruised shin and wounded pride. At recess, Oliver waited on the same bench, hoping Lily would appear. The playground buzzed with activity around him, the squeak of swings, the thud of kickballs, the shrieks of children playing tag. Looking for your imaginary friend. It was Tyler's voice, accompanied by 2 or 3 others. Oliver tensed. She's not imaginary. Yeah, right. No one saw you talking to anybody yesterday. And she said her name is Lily. She's 7, Tyler snorted. There's no Lily in 1st grade, or 2nd grade either. Maybe she's in another class, Oliver suggested, though doubt began to creep in. Hey, freak, did your dad buy you those special books? Must be nice being rich. Too bad he can't buy you new eyeballs. Oliver clutched his cane tighter, remembering yesterday's consequences. Suddenly, a small rock sailed through the air, hitting Tyler squarely on the shoulder. Ow! Tyler yelped. Who did that? Leave him alone! Lily's voice came from behind the bench. Oliver smiled in relief as he heard Tyler and his friends back away, muttering. "You came back," Oliver said as Lily sat beside him. "I said I would, didn't I?" Her voice sounded different today, hungrier, more tired. "The other kids say you don't go to this school," Oliver ventured. Lily was quiet for a moment. "I don't go to any school." "Why not?" Another pause. "It's complicated." Oliver sensed she didn't want to talk about it. "Thank you for helping me again." "Those boys are jerks," Lily declared. "My mom always said bullies are just scared of what's different." "Your mom sounds smart," Oliver replied. "Mine was too. She died 2 years ago." "I'm sorry," Lily said softly. "My mom died too, last winter." Oliver reached out until his hand found hers. Her fingers felt cold and rough. "What about your dad?" "Never had one," Lily said matter-of-factly. "It was just me and Mom." "So who takes care of you now?" Oliver asked, confused. The bell rang before Lily could answer. She squeezed his hand once and was gone. Meanwhile, Thomas sat in his car, checking emails on his phone and occasionally glancing at the school. His assistant had called 3 times about an important client meeting, but Thomas couldn't bring himself to leave. Something about this situation felt wrong. Who was this mysterious Lily who'd befriended his son? When lunchtime came, Thomas made a decision. He entered the school, telling the front office he'd forgotten to pack Oliver's medication. They directed him to the cafeteria. Thomas spotted Oliver immediately, sitting at a table near the wall. He was talking animatedly, gesturing with his hands, but the space across from him was empty. Frowning, Thomas approached. "Hey, champ, forgot your allergy pills." Oliver looked up, surprised. "Dad, come meet Lily." Thomas looked at the empty seat. "Lily?" "She's right here," Oliver insisted, pointing to the vacant space. Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. Was his son creating an imaginary friend to cope with the bullying? "She had to go to the bathroom," Oliver explained, sensing his father's confusion. "But she was just here." Thomas sat down, placing the unnecessary medication bottle on the table. "Tell me about Lily." Oliver's face lit up. "She's 7, and she's really brave. She threw a rock at Tyler today when he was being mean." Thomas frowned. "She threw a rock? Just a small one, on his shoulder. She's protecting me." Thomas glanced around the cafeteria, looking for any sign of this mysterious defender. A movement near the kitchen caught his eye. A small figure darting between the lunch ladies, snatching something from a tray, then disappearing through a side door. "I'll be right back," Thomas told Oliver, rising quickly. He hurried across the cafeteria, following the glimpse of movement. The side door led to a service corridor. Thomas walked cautiously down the hallway until he heard a sound, someone chewing hurriedly. Turning the corner, he came face to face with the little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8, with tangled brown hair and wide, startled eyes. She wore mismatched clothes that hung from her thin frame, jeans with holes at the knees, a faded red sweater several sizes too large, and boys' sneakers with broken laces. In her hands was a half-eaten sandwich, clearly taken from the cafeteria. "Lily," Thomas guessed. The girl froze, then bolted past him toward the exit. "Wait!" Thomas called, but she was already gone, the door swinging shut behind her. Thomas stood in the empty hallway, processing what he'd just seen. The girl was clearly not a student. Her clothes were worn and dirty, her appearance unkempt. Yet this was the child who had been defending his son. He returned to Oliver, his mind racing. "Did you find her?" Oliver asked hopefully. "I think I might have," Thomas replied carefully. "Oliver, does Lily come to school every day?" Oliver shook his head. "I don't think so. She said it's complicated." "Has she told you where she lives?" "No. She doesn't like talking about that stuff." Thomas considered his next move. If this girl was sneaking into the school, the administration should know. But something held him back from reporting her immediately. "Dad, why are you asking about Lily?" Oliver's voice was suddenly anxious. Thomas squeezed his son's shoulder. Just curious about your new friend, that's all." After saying goodbye to Oliver, Thomas didn't return to his office. Instead, he sat in his car watching the school grounds. During afternoon recess, he spotted her again, the same small figure, hovering at the edge of the playground, watching the children. When Oliver came outside with his class, the girl approached him immediately. Thomas watched their interaction through binoculars from his car. The girl, Lily, sat close to Oliver, talking animatedly. Several times she glanced around warily, as if expecting to be chased away. When other children approached, she stiffened defensively. Thomas took out his phone and called his head of security at Harrison Investments. "Mike, I need a background check. First name Lily, approximately 7 years old, likely in the Westfield Elementary District. Mother deceased as of last winter. No father in the picture." "That's not much to go on, sir," Mike replied. "Also, check recent reports of homeless or missing children matching that description." "Homeless?" Mike sounded surprised. "Sir, what exactly is this about? Just do it, please. It's important." After school, Thomas took Oliver for ice cream, carefully probing for more information about Lily. "She knows a lot about animals," Oliver said between spoonfuls of chocolate ice cream. "And she can climb to the top of the monkey bars super fast." "Does she ever talk about her home? Or where she goes after school?" Oliver's brow furrowed. "She said she lives around. I asked if that meant an apartment like us, and she just laughed." That night, after Oliver was asleep, Thomas received a call from Mike. "Found something, sir. Last December, a woman named Sarah Mitchell died of pneumonia in a homeless shelter in Chelsea. She had a 7-year-old daughter named Lily. Child Services took the girl, but she ran away from her foster home in February, been missing ever since." Thomas felt his chest tighten. "Has anyone been looking for her?" "Report says the case is open, but inactive. Resources are stretched thin, apparently." Thomas thanked Mike and hung up, staring out at the city lights. A homeless child had been protecting his son, while no one protected her. The irony wasn't lost on him. The next morning, Thomas arrived at school early, parking where he could observe the building. Just as he suspected, he spotted Lily slipping in through a side entrance as the custodian opened up. She was carrying a small backpack that looked stuffed full. Instead of heading to his office, Thomas waited. Mid-morning, he entered the school and requested to speak with Dr. Peterson. "Mr. Harrison," the principal greeted him cautiously, "is everything all right with Oliver?" "Actually, I wanted to discuss security," Thomas began. "Specifically, how a homeless 7-year-old girl has been freely entering your school for who knows how long." Dr. Peterson's face paled. "Excuse me? Her name is Lily Mitchell. Her mother died in December. She's been living on the street since February when she ran away from foster care. And she's been coming into your school, presumably looking for food and shelter." "That's impossible," Dr. Peterson sputtered. "We have security protocols." "Clearly ineffective ones," Thomas interrupted. "This child has been here for days, possibly weeks. She's been interacting with my son." "I'll call the police immediately." Dr. Peterson reached for his phone. "Wait," Thomas held up his hand. "Before you do that, I'd like to speak with her." Dr. Peterson frowned. "Mr. Harrison, if there's an unauthorized person in this building, especially a runaway child, we have protocols to follow." 5 minutes, Thomas insisted. "She's scared and alone. The last thing she needs is police officers chasing her through the hallways." The principal reluctantly agreed, and they began searching the school. They found Lily in the library, curled up in a reading nook with a picture book. She bolted upright when she saw them approaching. "It's okay," Thomas said gently, keeping his distance. "You're not in trouble." Lily's eyes darted between Thomas and the principal, calculating her escape route. "I'm Oliver's dad," Thomas continued. "He's told me about you, about how you've been protecting him." The girl's expression softened slightly at the mention of Oliver. "Is it true you don't have a home right now?" Thomas asked. Lily's chin jutted out defiantly. I do have a home, it's just not like other people's. Where do you sleep, Lily? She shrugged. Different places. There's a good spot in the park when it's not raining. Thomas felt his heart breaking. And what do you eat? I find stuff, she mumbled. The cafeteria ladies put out trash bags with good food still in them. Dr. Peterson made a strangled noise behind Thomas. Lily, Thomas said gently, you can't keep living like this. It's not safe. Fear flashed across her face. You're going to call the people who take kids away. Child Protective Services, Dr. Peterson interjected. They help children who... They put me with mean people, Lily cried. The man yelled all the time and they locked the fridge so I couldn't eat when I was hungry. Thomas knelt to her level. Not all foster homes are like that, Lily. I'm not going back, she declared, tears welling in her eyes. I promised my mom I'd be brave and take care of myself. Your mom would want you to be safe, Thomas said, and fed and warm and in school. Lily's lower lip trembled. The other kids make fun of me because I'm dirty and my clothes are old. That's why I don't come during class. But when I saw them being mean to Oliver... She trailed off. You wanted to protect him, Thomas finished for her, because he's different too. She nodded. Thomas made a decision in that moment, one that would change all their lives forever. What if I told you there was another option, a place where you'd be safe and fed, and no one would make fun of you? Where? Lily asked suspiciously. With us. With me and Oliver. Dr. Peterson cleared his throat. Mr. Harrison, there are legal procedures, which I will follow, Thomas assured him without taking his eyes off Lily. But right now, this child needs a safe place to stay while we sort things out. Lily looked at him with a mixture of hope and disbelief. You would let me stay with you? Why? Because you helped my son when he needed someone, Thomas answered simply, and now you need someone too. For the first time, Lily smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her whole face. Could I really go to school with Oliver? For real? Yes, Thomas promised. For real. Later that afternoon, as Thomas drove home with both children in the back seat, Oliver excitedly showing Lily how his special Braille watch worked, he made a series of calls to his lawyer to initiate emergency fostering paperwork, to his housekeeper to prepare a room, to a department store arranging for children's clothes to be delivered, and finally, to Child Protective Services to begin the long process that he already knew would end with adoption. Dad, Oliver called from the back seat. Lily says she's never been in a building taller than 3 stories. Can we show her our apartment? Of course, Thomas replied, watching in the rearview mirror as Lily's eyes widened at the sight of the Manhattan skyline. We'll show her everything. As they approached the towering luxury building where the Harrisons lived, Lily pressed her face against the window in wonder. You live all the way up there, she whispered to Oliver. 37th floor, Oliver said proudly. You can feel the wind when the windows are open. Thomas parked in the private garage and led the children to the private elevator. As the doors closed, he caught Lily's reflection, her expression a mixture of terror and amazement as the elevator began its ascent. It's okay, Oliver assured her, somehow sensing her fear. It's just like flying. Thomas watched as Lily tentatively reached out and took Oliver's hand. 2 broken children finding strength in each other. The elevator doors opened directly into the Harrison penthouse with its panoramic views of Central Park and beyond. Lily gasped audibly. Welcome home, Thomas said quietly, watching as the little girl who had been sleeping in parks took her first uncertain steps into her new life. The first few weeks in the Harrison penthouse felt like a dream to Lily. After months of surviving on the streets, she now had her own bedroom with a canopy bed, a closet full of new clothes, and 3 meals a day served on real plates. Each morning, she would wake up expecting to find herself back in the park, cold and hungry. Instead, she'd open her eyes to sunshine streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the distant sound of Thomas making breakfast in the gleaming kitchen. Oliver had adapted to having Lily around with remarkable ease. In his world of sounds and textures, her presence was a comfort, her footsteps lighter than his father's, her voice always nearby, guiding him when he needed help, but never assuming he couldn't manage on his own. "Do you like the pancakes?" Thomas asked one Saturday morning in October, 3 weeks after Lily had come to live with them. Lily nodded vigorously, her mouth too full to speak. She still ate quickly, as if afraid the food might disappear. "Use your napkin, not your sleeve," Thomas reminded her gently. It was one of many small lessons, table manners, indoor voice, please and thank you, that Lily was learning day by day. "Sorry," she mumbled, reaching for the cloth napkin beside her plate. Such luxuries still felt foreign in her hands. Oliver sat across from her, carefully cutting his pancakes, using the technique his occupational therapist had taught him. "Dad, can we go to the park today? I want to show Lily the boat pond." Thomas glanced at his phone calendar. "I think we can manage that. My conference call isn't until 4. Since bringing Lily home, Thomas had rearranged his work schedule dramatically. Instead of 70-hour weeks at the office, he now worked primarily from home, delegating more to his executive team. His employees were shocked by the transformation, but Thomas had realized something important that day in the school cafeteria. His wealth meant nothing if he wasn't there for the children who needed him. The legal situation remained complicated. Thomas's attorneys had secured temporary emergency guardianship of Lily while they navigated the labyrinthine foster care system. Social workers visited weekly, inspecting the apartment and interviewing both children. Lily had initially been terrified of these visits, hiding in her closet the first time a caseworker arrived. "They're going to take me away," she'd whispered when Thomas found her. "No one is taking you anywhere," he'd promised, holding her trembling body against his chest. "You're staying right here with us." The most recent social worker, Ms. Rodriguez, seemed more sympathetic than her predecessors. She'd been impressed by how quickly Lily was adapting to her new environment and how genuinely attached she'd become to both Thomas and Oliver. "Mr. Harrison," she'd said during her last visit, "what you're doing for Lily is remarkable, but I need to ask, why are you going to such lengths for a child you barely know?" Thomas had looked through the doorway to where Lily and Oliver sat on the living room floor, working on a tactile puzzle together. "Because she needed someone," he'd answered simply. "And maybe we needed her too." Now, as Thomas watched Lily carefully counting out blueberries to add to her remaining pancakes, numbers were still hard for her after missing so much school, he marveled at how naturally she had fit into their lives. "Dad?" Oliver interrupted his thoughts. "Can Lily come to Grandma and Grandpa's for Thanksgiving? I already told her about the pumpkin pie." Thomas hesitated. His parents, wealthy, traditional, and somewhat rigid, had been skeptical about his sudden guardianship of a homeless child. His mother had specifically questioned the wisdom of taking in a street child when he already had enough on his plate with Oliver's condition. "We'll see," Thomas hedged. "It's still a few weeks away." After breakfast, they prepared for their outing to Central Park. Oliver could navigate their apartment with ease, but public spaces required his white cane and more assistance. Lily had taken to this role naturally, describing surroundings to Oliver in vivid detail and warning him of obstacles with remarkable patience for a 7-year-old. As they walked through the park, Lily held Oliver's hand, guiding him along the path. "There's a big tree on your right," she narrated. "Its leaves are orange and red now. And there's a squirrel running up the trunk." "What color squirrel?" Oliver asked eagerly. "Gray with a super fluffy tail," Lily replied. "He's watching us like we might have snacks." Thomas followed a few steps behind, watching this interaction with a full heart. In just 3 weeks, Lily had developed an intuitive understanding of what Oliver needed to see the world. She described colors, textures, and movements in ways that made sense to him, never pitying or patronizing. They reached the boat pond, where children were sailing miniature vessels across the water. Thomas rented 2 small sailboats, one for each child. "I don't know how," Lily admitted, staring at the toy boat in her hands. "I'll teach you," Oliver offered, his fingers expertly finding the controls on his boat. "I can do it by feel." For the next hour, Thomas sat on a bench watching as Oliver patiently taught Lily how to sail the miniature boat. Despite his blindness, or perhaps because of it, Oliver was an excellent teacher, explaining everything in precise, tactile terms. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out from nearby. "Oliver, is that you?" Thomas turned to see Catherine Wheeler, Oliver's vision therapist, approaching with her husband. In her mid-30s, with curly auburn hair, Catherine had been working with Oliver since he was 3 years old. "Dr. Catherine!" Oliver exclaimed, recognizing her voice immediately. "We're sailing boats. I'm teaching Lily how to do it." Catherine smiled, looking curiously at the little girl beside Oliver. "And who is Lily?" Thomas felt the world tilt beneath him. "Excuse me?" The man, mid-40s, with Lily's same brown eyes but none of her warmth, extended a business card. "Richard Bennett, attorney. Sarah Mitchell was my sister. I've spent months searching for my niece." Thomas took the card automatically, his mind racing. In all the background checks, no living relatives had been found. Lily had never mentioned an uncle. "Lily," Thomas called, keeping his voice steady. "Could you come here for a moment?" Both children looked up from their boats. Lily's expression shifted instantly when she saw the stranger, her body tensing, her eyes widening with something that looked distinctly like fear. "Who's that?" Oliver whispered to her. "Nobody," Lily replied, but she reluctantly approached, keeping Thomas between herself and the man. "Lily, do you know Mr. Bennett?" Thomas asked gently. Lily shook her head forcefully, then hesitated. "Maybe. I don't remember." Richard Bennett knelt to her level. "Lilypad, it's Uncle Rich. From Christmas, when you were little, I brought you that teddy bear with the red bow." Lily's brow furrowed. "Mom didn't like you," she said bluntly. "She said you never helped us when we needed it." Bennett's smile tightened. "Your mom and I had our differences, but family is family. I've been looking everywhere for you since she passed." Thomas placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "Mr. Bennett, this is quite unexpected. Lily has been through significant trauma. She's currently under my emergency guardianship while permanent arrangements are being made." "Yes, I've spoken with Child Protective Services," Bennett replied, straightening. "They informed me of the situation. As Lily's only living blood relative, I have priority for custody." Oliver had made his way to Lily's side, his hand finding hers. "What's happening?" he asked, sensing the tension. "This man says he's my uncle," Lily explained quietly. "He wants me to go with him." "No!" Oliver's voice rose in panic. "Dad, tell him she lives with us now." Thomas kept his expression neutral, despite the alarm bells ringing in his head. "Mr. Bennett, I think we should continue this conversation privately. Perhaps you could come to my office tomorrow." Bennett shook his head. "I've already filed the necessary paperwork. I'm prepared to take Lily today." "Absolutely not," Thomas replied, his voice hardening. "Legal guardianship doesn't transfer without proper proceedings." "My attorneys are excellent, I'm sure," Bennett interrupted. "But they can't change the fact that I'm her blood relative. The courts prioritize family reunification." Lily pressed herself against Thomas's side. "Please don't make me go with him," she whispered. Thomas knelt between the children. "No one is going anywhere today," he assured them, then looked up at Bennett. "My attorney will contact you this afternoon, Mr. Bennett. Until the court makes a determination, Lily remains under my guardianship." Bennett's jaw tightened, but he nodded curtly. "I'll expect that call, Mr. Harrison. Lily, I'll see you very soon." As Bennett walked away, Thomas pulled out his phone and dialed his attorney's direct line. "Sandra, we have a situation." The remainder of their outing was subdued. Lily was unnaturally quiet. Her earlier joy evaporated. Oliver kept asking questions that Thomas struggled to answer. Why would her uncle wait so long to find her? Why didn't he help when her mom was sick? Why can't she just stay with us forever? Back at the apartment, Thomas set the children up with a movie in the living room while he retreated to his office for an emergency conference call with his legal team. "The uncle's claim is strong," Sandra admitted grimly. "Blood relatives typically receive preference in these cases. He didn't even know she was missing until now," Thomas argued. "Where was he when her mother died? When Lily was placed in an abusive foster home? When she was living on the streets?" "All valid questions that we'll raise," Sandra assured him. "But the courts tend to prioritize biological connections unless there's clear evidence of unfitness." "Then find some," Thomas replied flatly. "This man shows up out of nowhere after Lily is safely with a wealthy guardian. It feels opportunistic." After the call, Thomas returned to the living room. The movie played unwatched as Lily and Oliver sat in whispered conversation. "I have a hiding place in the park," Lily was saying. "We could take food and—" "What are you two discussing?" Thomas interrupted, his heart sinking. Lily jumped guiltily. "Nothing. Lily was saying we could run away if her uncle tries to take her," Oliver admitted, unable to lie effectively. "I told her it wouldn't work because I can't see where I'm going." Thomas sat beside them on the couch. "No one is running away. We're going to handle this properly through the courts." "But what if they make me go with him?" Lily's voice was small, frightened. Thomas wished he could promise it wouldn't happen, but he refused to lie to her. "We're going to fight to keep you here, Lily. My lawyers are very good at their jobs." "Mum said Uncle Rich only cared about money," Lily confided. "That's why he never helped us, but now—" Her voice trailed off. "Now there might be money involved," Thomas finished the thought. If Bennett gained custody of Lily, he would control any inheritance or benefits she might receive as her legal guardian. Thomas ducked into the hallway outside his parents' apartment and called Mike. "What did you find?" "Richard Bennett is indeed Sarah Mitchell's half-brother," Mike reported. "Same father, different mothers. But here's where it gets interesting. He hasn't practiced law in 3 years. His license was suspended for misappropriation of client funds." Thomas frowned. "Yet he presented himself as an attorney yesterday." "Exactly. And there's more. Bennett has significant gambling debts. He's been flagged by 3 casinos in Atlantic City." "So he needs money," Thomas mused, "and suddenly he's interested in his orphaned niece, who happens to be in the care of one of New York's wealthiest investment bankers," Mike added. "I'd say that's not a coincidence." "What about his claim that he's been searching for Lily?" "No evidence of that. No missing persons reports filed by him, no contact with the foster system until last week. In fact, when Sarah Mitchell was in the hospital, the staff tried to contact him as next of kin. He never responded." Thomas thanked Mike and ended the call, his jaw tight with anger. Bennett wasn't interested in Lily's welfare. He saw her as a means to financial gain, either through a custody arrangement that would give him control of her benefits or through some form of blackmail. What if Bennett was planning to leverage Lily's situation? A wealthy man developing a sudden attachment to an orphaned girl. Some might view it with suspicion. Bennett could threaten to raise questions, create public doubts, unless Thomas made arrangements to support Lily from afar. Thomas arrived at his attorney's office 20 minutes early, sharing his suspicions and Mike's findings with Sandra. "This changes our approach," Sandra said, typing notes rapidly. "We'll need to request a formal investigation into Bennett's suitability as a guardian." When Bennett arrived with his attorney, a nervous young man who looked fresh out of law school, Thomas studied him with new eyes, the designer suit that was slightly too tight, the expensive watch that seemed newly purchased. the confident smile that didn't reach his calculating eyes. "Mr. Harrison," Bennett greeted him with false warmth, "I appreciate your cooperation in this difficult situation." "Let's be clear about something," Thomas replied coldly. "My only concern is Lily's well-being. Which begs the question, where have you been for the past year?" Bennett's smile faltered. "As I told you, I've been searching—" "No, you haven't," Thomas interrupted. "You made no effort to find Lily until you learned she was living with me. You didn't respond when the hospital called you as your sister lay dying. You didn't help when Lily was placed in foster care. You weren't concerned when she was homeless for months." "That's not true," Bennett protested, but his eyes shifted away. "Your law license is suspended," Thomas continued mercilessly. "You have substantial gambling debts. You're in no position to care for a child, and we both know that's not what this is about." Bennett's attorney cleared his throat. "Mr. Harrison, these accusations are being submitted to the family court judge today," Sandra interjected, sliding a document across the table. "Along with our petition for a thorough investigation before any custody hearings proceed." Bennett's face darkened. "This is about money for you too, Harrison. Don't pretend it's not. What's your interest in my niece? A tax write-off? A PR stunt for your company, or something else?" Thomas felt rage building inside him, but kept his voice steady. "My interest is giving a traumatized child stability and love, something you've never shown any inclination to provide." "You barely know her," Bennett sneered. "I know that she likes strawberry ice cream, but not strawberry yogurt," Thomas replied evenly. "I know she sleeps with the light on because she's afraid of the dark. I know she can name every bird in Central Park. I know she still cries for her mother at night when she thinks no one can hear her. What do you know about Lily, Mr. Bennett?" The meeting deteriorated from there, ending with Bennett storming out after threatening to make this very public. His parting words haunted Thomas. "You think your blind son needs this kind of scrutiny?" Back at his parents' apartment, Thomas found Oliver and Lily building an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets. His mother watched from the kitchen, her expression a mixture of concern and reluctant affection. "They've been at it for hours," she told Thomas quietly. "That girl has quite an imagination." "Her name is Lily, Mom," Thomas corrected gently. "And yes, she does." "How did your meeting go?" his mother asked. Thomas shook his head slightly. "Not here," he murmured, nodding toward the children. The weeks leading up to Thanksgiving passed in a blur of legal filings, school activities, and growing uncertainty. Bennett's attorney had requested an expedited hearing, pressing for temporary custody while the investigation proceeded. Thomas's legal team had countered with mountains of documentation, school records showing Lily's improvement, therapist reports noting her attachment to the Harrison household, and affidavits from teachers and social workers supporting the current arrangement. Through it all, Thomas tried to maintain normalcy for the children. Oliver continued his specialized education program at Westfield, now with Lily officially enrolled in 2nd grade. The school administration, once embarrassed by the security breach that had allowed Lily to sneak in, had become supportive advocates for keeping the children together. "Their friendship has been transformative for both of them," Oliver's teacher wrote in her statement to the court. "Oliver has gained confidence and social connection, while Lily has found stability and academic growth." The court had appointed its own investigator, a stern woman named Mrs. Geller, who interviewed the children separately and together, observed them at home and school, and scrutinized every aspect of their living situation. "She asked if you ever yell at us," Lily reported after her interview. "I told her never, even when I spilled juice on the white couch." Thomas smiled, remembering the incident. Lily had been so terrified of punishment that she'd tried to clean the spill with toilet paper, making it worse. It had taken hours of gentle reassurance to convince her that accidents weren't catastrophes in this home. "What else did she ask?" Thomas inquired, trying to sound casual. Lily shrugged. If I miss my mom, if I remember Uncle Rich, if I'd rather live with real family. Her voice caught on the last words. What did you tell her? That I do miss my mom every day, that Uncle Rich only came to our apartment once and made Mom cry, and that you and Oliver are my real family now. She looked up anxiously. Was that okay to say? Thomas hugged her tightly. That was perfect, because it's what you truly feel. As Thanksgiving approached, the custody situation remained unresolved. The hearing was scheduled for early December, giving Thomas a temporary reprieve. His mother had insisted they all come to the Hamptons' house for the holiday, all, finally including Lily, after Thomas had made it clear they were a package deal. The day before Thanksgiving found them driving out to Long Island, the city falling away behind them. Oliver and Lily played 20 questions in the back seat, their excitement building as Thomas described the ocean they would see. Is it really as big as the whole sky? Lily asked, having never visited a beach. Bigger, Thomas assured her. It goes on forever. But what color is it? Oliver wanted to know. Everyone says different things. It changes, Thomas explained. Sometimes blue, sometimes grey, sometimes almost green. I'll tell you exactly what color it is tomorrow, Lily promised Oliver, taking her role as his eyes seriously. The Harrison family estate sat on 2 acres overlooking the Atlantic, a sprawling colonial-style mansion that had been in the family for 3 generations. As they pulled into the circular driveway, Thomas watched Lily's reaction in the rearview mirror. Her eyes widened at the sight of the house with its columns and perfect symmetry. It's like a castle, she whispered. Catherine, Thomas's mother, greeted them at the door with practiced graciousness. At 68, she remained elegant and formidable, her silver hair perfectly styled, her cashmere sweater immaculate. Oliver, darling, she cooed, embracing her grandson. Grandmother has missed you so much. Hi, Grandma, Oliver replied, hugging her back. This is my best friend Lily. She's living with us now. Catherine's smile tightened almost imperceptibly as she turned to Lily. Yes, of course. Hello, Lily. Lily, suddenly shy, managed a quiet hello while half hiding behind Thomas. Inside, the house was already decorated for Thanksgiving. Tasteful arrangements of gourds and autumn flowers, the dining table set with the family's antique china. William Harrison emerged from his study to greet them, giving Oliver a somewhat stiff hug and nodding politely to Lily. Thomas, a word in private, he requested, gesturing toward the study. Once the heavy door closed behind them, William didn't mince words. Sandra called. Bennett's attorney has proposed a settlement. Thomas tensed. What kind of settlement? Financial, of course. Bennett will drop the custody claim in exchange for a generous education and support fund for Lily. William's tone made his opinion clear. It's blackmail thinly veiled. How generous? Thomas asked bitterly. $5 million, administered by Bennett as Lily's family guardian. Thomas felt a surge of disgust. He doesn't care about her at all. This was always about money. Yes, well, people's motivations are often transparent, William replied. The question is, what do you want to do about it? Reject it completely, Thomas answered without hesitation. I won't let him use Lily as a pawn. William studied his son with an unreadable expression. You've become quite attached to the child. Children, Thomas corrected, both of them. Yes, but Oliver is your son. This girl is. William paused, searching for words. Also my child now, Thomas finished firmly. Biology isn't the only thing that makes a family, Dad. William raised an eyebrow, a rather modern view. Not really. Families have been formed through love and choice throughout history. Thomas moved toward the door. I'm not paying Bennett a cent. We'll let the court decide based on what's best for Lily. And if you lose? William challenged. If the court favors blood relations, as they often do. Thomas paused, his hand on the doorknob. I won't lose, he stated with quiet certainty, not when Lily's welfare is at stake. The study door opened to reveal Lily standing in the hallway, her expression making it clear she'd overheard at least part of the conversation. "Is Uncle Rich trying to sell me?" she asked bluntly. Thomas knelt to her level. "Were you listening at the door, Lily?" She nodded, unrepentant. "Oliver wanted to know what you were talking about." Despite the seriousness of the situation, Thomas felt a flicker of amusement at the children's conspiracy. "Your uncle has suggested an arrangement that isn't in your best interest," Thomas explained carefully. "And we're not going to accept it. Because you want me to stay with you?" Lily's eyes searched his face. "Because you belong with us," Thomas confirmed, "and no amount of money changes that." Lily's face crumpled suddenly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "My mom said Uncle Rich would do anything for money. Even after she got sick, he wouldn't help us unless she gave him Grandpa's watch." This was new information. "Your grandfather's watch?" Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. "Mom said it was valuable. It was the only nice thing we had left. But after she gave it to Uncle Rich for rent money, we still got evicted." Thomas exchanged a glance with his father, whose expression had hardened. "Did your mother ever mention any other valuables or property, anything that might have belonged to your grandparents?" Lily thought for a moment. "She talked about Grandma's house sometimes, the one at the beach that got sold when Grandma died. Mom was sad about it." Later, after the children were settled in their rooms, Oliver in his usual guest room and Lily in the adjoining bedroom that had been hastily prepared for her, Thomas shared this information with Sandra over the phone. "It changes things," Sandra agreed. "If Bennett has a history of exploiting his sister financially, it strengthens our case against him as a guardian. I'll have our investigators look into the property sale and the watch." 3 days before the hearing, Thomas's phone rang with an unknown number. It was a collect call from the Manhattan Detention Complex. "Mr. Harrison?" Richard Bennett's voice sounded strained. "I've been arrested." Thomas signaled to his assistant to begin recording the call. "On what charges?" "Fraud, forgery, grand larceny. They're saying I stole from Sarah." "Did you?" Thomas asked bluntly. A long pause. "I needed the money. Sarah wasn't using it anyway, living in shelters with the kid." "Money that could have kept them off the streets," Thomas pointed out, struggling to contain his anger. "Money that belonged to Lily's mother." 1 year later, December 24th, 2025, snow fell gently outside the windows of the Harrison penthouse as Thomas adjusted his tie in the bedroom mirror. The past 12 months had brought more changes than he could have imagined when he'd first encountered a small, fierce girl defending his blind son on a playground. The adoption had been finalized in January, making Lily officially Lily Mitchell Harrison. She had wanted to keep her mother's name, "So Mom will always be part of me," as she'd explained to the judge. Richard Bennett had pled guilty to reduced charges of fraud and forgery in exchange for a shorter sentence. As part of his plea deal, he had signed away all rights to Lily and made a full confession about misappropriating Sarah Mitchell's inheritance. Thomas had used that confession to establish a trust in Sarah's name, recovering the stolen funds plus interest for Lily's future. A portion of the money had been donated to the homeless shelter where Sarah had spent her final days, funding a new family housing wing named in her memory. "Dad!" Oliver called from the living room. "Lily won't let me feel the presents." "They're wrapped for a reason," Lily's voice countered. "It's supposed to be a surprise." Thomas smiled as he left the bedroom to referee the familiar squabble. At 7 and 8, the children bickered like true siblings now, their bond only strengthened by the legal recognition of their family. "No feeling presents until tomorrow," Thomas ruled as he entered the living room. "But Lily, remember that Oliver experiences things differently. Maybe you could describe the shapes of the packages instead." Lily considered this compromise. In the year since coming to live with them, She had blossomed, her face fuller, her clothes no longer hanging from a too thin frame, her eyes bright with the confidence of a child who knew she was loved unconditionally. "Okay," she agreed. "This one is rectangle-shaped, about as big as a book, and it's wrapped in paper that feels bumpy, with little snowmen on it." Oliver grinned. "Is it the Braille Science Encyclopedia I asked for?" "I'm not telling," Lily laughed. "But it's from me, not Santa or Dad." Thomas watched them continue this game, marveling at how naturally they had created their own language of description and touch. Oliver's therapists had been amazed by his developmental progress this year, attributing much of it to his unique relationship with Lily. "Children often learn best from other children, Doctor," Winters had explained during their last session. "Lily provides peer modeling that no adult could replicate, and Oliver gives her something equally valuable: unconditional acceptance." The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of Thomas's parents for Christmas Eve dinner. Catherine Harrison entered in a swirl of cashmere and perfume, her arms laden with beautifully wrapped packages. "Grandma!" the children chorused, rushing to greet her. Catherine had undergone perhaps the most surprising transformation of all. Her initial reluctance about Lily had melted away completely, replaced by genuine grandmotherly affection. She now doted on both children equally, even taking Lily shopping for proper young lady clothes, and enrolling her in the same piano lessons Oliver had been taking for years. "My darlings," Catherine cooed, bending to kiss them both. "Oliver, you've grown at least an inch since Thanksgiving, and Lily, what a beautiful dress." Lily twirled to show off her green velvet holiday dress. "Dad says I look like a Christmas tree, but in a good way." William Harrison followed his wife, carrying a large bag of gifts to add to the already impressive collection under the tree. His relationship with Lily had developed more slowly, but Thomas had recently caught his father teaching her chess with the same patient instruction he'd once given Thomas. "Something smells delicious," William remarked, hanging his coat in the closet, a casual familiarity that would have been unthinkable in their more formal relationship a year ago. "We made cookies," Oliver announced proudly. "I did the mixing, and Lily did the decorations." "Oh, quite the team," William observed, accepting a slightly misshapen star cookie from his grandson's outstretched hand. After dinner, they gathered in the living room for their Christmas Eve tradition of sharing something they were grateful for from the past year. "I'm grateful for my new glasses," Oliver began, touching the special light-filtering glasses he'd started wearing recently. Though they couldn't restore his sight, they protected his sensitive eyes and looked, as Lily had assured him, super cool. "I'm grateful for piano lessons," Lily said when her turn came, "and for learning to read real books instead of just pretending." Catherine shared her gratitude for family togetherness, while William, ever practical, expressed appreciation for Lily's positive influence on Oliver's confidence. When Thomas's turn came, he looked at the faces around him, his parents more relaxed and engaged than he could remember them being in years, his son thriving despite the challenges of his blindness, and Lily, the unexpected blessing who had completed their family circle. "I'm grateful for second chances," he said simply, "and for the reminder that families can be found in the most unexpected places." Later, after his parents had departed and the children were tucked into bed with promises that Santa would come soon, Thomas stood at the window watching the snow transform Manhattan into a winter wonderland. His thoughts drifted to Amanda, wondering what she would think of their expanded family. A small noise behind him made Thomas turn. Lily stood in the hallway in her Christmas pajamas, her stuffed penguin clutched in one arm. "Can't sleep?" Thomas asked softly. Lily shook her head. "I was thinking about Mom. Christmas was her favorite." "Would you like to talk about her?" Thomas offered, patting the spot beside him on the window seat. Lily climbed up, her small face serious in the dim light. "I was wondering, Do you think my mum and Oliver's mom would have been friends if they'd known each other? The question caught Thomas by surprise. I think they would have, he answered thoughtfully. They were both very strong women who loved their children more than anything. Lily seemed satisfied with this answer. That's what I thought too. She leaned against Thomas's side, watching the snow. Sometimes I think they somehow helped us find each other. That's a beautiful thought, Thomas agreed, putting his arm around her shoulders. Dad? Lily looked up at him, her expression earnest. Thank you for finding me, for bringing me home. Thomas felt his throat tighten with emotion. No, Lily. Thank you for finding us. For protecting Oliver that first day, and for showing me what was missing in our lives. Lily smiled, a child's smile full of uncomplicated happiness. We fixed each other, she stated. Yes, Thomas agreed, hugging her close. We certainly did.